Hey, what's up? Dan here. So, one of the challenges you will face when you're first starting out as an independent business consultant is the challenge of packaging and pricing your services. Like, what do I charge for my service? That's the question you're probably asking. What do I charge? How much should I charge for my service? And in this video, that's what I want to talk about because it certainly was a challenge that I faced early on in my career, some 15 years ago. And it's certainly one that you will face no matter how much professional experience you have. When you get into the space of consulting and you're leveraging those same experiences, the fact that you're in a different industry makes things different, right? So, what is the thinking behind packaging and pricing, right? As a business consultant, you will be in any number of niches, any different niche, right? Maybe you may be doing communications, or you're doing business process improvement, or you're doing leadership, or talent management, or recruiting, research, marketing, content creation, a whole list. All right, and you may have skills in more than one of these areas. And then the question is, okay, what do I offer my clients and how much do I charge? Well, the first thing is let's talk about the packaging. Whilst it is true that you will have different skills or you could have different skill sets, my advice to you is when you're beginning out, start with one. Get some referrals, let people know you for that one, and then you gradually add in related. But ultimately, you don't want to go to more than three different consulting services, business consulting services at any moment. But start with one. So, in my case, when I started out, I started with writing simple business plans for small businesses who wanted loans, SME loans from the banks. Okay, that was it. All I did was business plans for small businesses looking to get loans. And how much did I charge for it then? Well, I did some research online and kind of gauge, talk to the customers like, how much would you pay? And some people said something low, some people said something high. But by talking to the end users, I found that $500 was a fair price to charge for the business plan writing services at that time. I will later on. I've done as much as $28,000 for an investment proposal, which is an advanced level of a business plan. But that was much later. Okay, so that's the first thing. Find out what is the one service that you're offering first, and then you move on to others. Once you know that one service that you want to offer as a beginning, and you can already assess your skills and you know what you're feeling um, to be the first. Or sometimes just look at what people are asking you for. One of the things I found is that that God allows your clients to come and they will bring themselves and they will ask you for the services. And at any point when I'm having a challenge and I just let it go, I see that the answer comes to me. People will call and ask, and in this case, somebody will call. I even had that experience today as I'm recording this video. Today is March 4th, 2025. I was dealing with an issue and I was pondering over it, like, what direction should I take? And then this morning, I get a WhatsApp message from somebody asking me a question about one of the two things I was thinking about. And for me, that was a sign that, all right, this is where I need to focus my attention. Okay, so coming back to you decide what service you're going to provide. Let's say you work in agriculture. Your experience is agriculture. You are an agronomist and you've been doing farming and agriculture extension, and maybe you've run your own commercial farm, and now you've been asked by others who want to start farming, or and they want your consulting services maybe to help them decide what kind of crops to grow, what crops has the most potential, what are the yield, what monies are involved, like how much will they need to invest, and what will the return on investment be, and all of these things, right? So that's agribusiness consulting. And you want to transition from being an agronomist or an agriculture extension agent, and now you're moving into an agribusiness consultant. Well, it's similar to what I said back then. You will be helping a person develop an agribusiness plan, an agriculture-based business plan. This is where you're most likely going to be doing some soil testing. Maybe they have the farmland already, and they say, okay, which crops will grow here the fastest? And you may need to do soil testing, and then you may need to do some value chain analysis, and be able to help them develop a comprehensive plan that goes from planting to the market. All right, from the time the seed is planted to, or even before the seed is planted, maybe you need to support them from the nursery stage, from putting that seed on nursery, and then it's transferred into the soil, and then it germinates, and it is managed and nourished and cared for until harvest, and then it's storage and packaging, and then to the market or processing, depending on what the customer's goals are. So if you have all of that you're going to create a comprehensive plan for that client, then you need to charge accordingly. Now, here's where it gets tricky, especially when you're starting out. You need to understand that customers will pay you based on what they value your service to be, what value your service is to them. Okay, so the mindset comes into play here. Because if a client comes to you and says, I want you to help me do X, Y, Z, if that client does not think that what you're doing for them is worth 10 times more than what you're asking them for, they're probably not going to pay for it. And that's my rule of thumb. When I'm charging for a service, I want the client to understand that the value that I'm bringing to them is at least 10 times what they're paying me. So for example, if a client comes and says, hey, Daniel, I want you to help me do a business plan. Back then, that was that rule, and that rule still exists. The first question I'm asking you is, how much are you looking for in a loan from the bank? And they say, oh, I need $3,000. I'm like, okay, here's a guide on how you can do a simple business plan for yourself. Or if you want me to do it, it's $500. $500 was my base. But that $500 meant that the clients that I wanted to work with are those who were seeking between $5,000 and $10,000 from the bank at that time. Okay, so then I charge $500. You know that if you pay me $500, even though I wasn't guaranteeing the loan, and I'll explain that, I was charging that amount. And here's why I wasn't guaranteeing a loan, because I'm not the bank. But usually what was happening is they had gone to the bank already. The bank had all but agreed to give them the loan and needed the business plan as a supporting document before the loan is approved. So they usually came with a pre-approval, okay, but they needed that business plan to get the loan. And as time went on, I started to do bigger grants and proposals. And like I said, one of the business plans that I did, I got paid $28,000, but the client received $17 million in grant funding. At that point, I was now charging a smaller percentage of the total amount. But coming back to you here, so you could use that as a rule of thumb. Say, I will charge the value of my service to that client should be at least 10 times what they're paying me. So if the value you're bringing to your client, if that farm, let's go back to you as an agriculture extension farmer, now transitioning to an agribusiness agent. If this farm that the client is looking to start, whether they have the money or they're going to source the money, if the value of the project, the startup of the project is, say, $100,000, then it is fair to charge $10,000. Now, the other part that you need to consider is that value must be believable. It must be from the client. The clients must perceive it as such. The client must perceive the value as such. It's not just for you. So sometimes one of the first things you need to do before you even bring price into the picture is to help the client understand the value of what you're doing. Now, this is true particularly if you're working with individual clients that want to start business. Maybe you want to work with a restaurant, you've run a restaurant all along, and now you want to help restaurants increase their annual, their daily intake. You could calculate your fee based on one of two ways: a set percentage of the increase that comes into the business, or if you're providing a particular service like restructuring the menu or providing customer service training, you then can sit with the client to calculate how much it is worth to them. And there are some questions you can ask in your intake meeting, and we'll have a training on your intake meeting. This is the first meeting you have with a potential client, even before you sign the agreement. And one of the questions that I will ask is, so what is this worth to you? And if I don't ask it that way, I'll ask it in another way, and that is, if, for example, the situation the client is dealing with is that they're losing money from maybe poor customer service, or the business is slow. The question is, so what is this costing you? How much are you losing? Do you think you're losing per day? And then they're able to come up with a number and say, okay, you know what? I believe that I'm losing $300 per day because of this problem. Okay, so $300 a day, and how many days is the restaurant open, or how many days is the business open? Well, we're open 6 days a week. All right, so that's $1,800 per week that you're losing, right? Say, yeah, okay. And you run a month. So you're telling me that in a month's time, you're losing 1,800 times 4, right? So that's what? 8 times 4, that's 3,200 plus 400. So you're losing $7,200 in a month from this problem. And now they're like, yeah, actually, that's what's happening. Okay. So if I can help you solve this problem, will it be fair for you to pay me $3,000? Because now you will be saving, you will not bringing back this amount. You may not ask them that way, but it's the thinking that I'm bringing to you here. So if you can help that client solve a problem that's cost them $7,200 a month, multiply that by 12, how much is it? All right, 7,200 times 10 is what? 70 grand. 200 times 10, that's 2 grand. That's 72 grand plus another 1440. That's about 86 grand and change. If you can save the client, or you can bring an additional $86,000 to a client over a year, how much is it worth them to pay you to do that? In my book, at least $8,000, probably more, maybe 10. And this is on the low end. All right. Now, mind you, much of my work has been done in Liberia and Ghana, West Africa. I do work with clients in the US and Canada, but what I'm telling you is applicable even in my local markets. So the question is, what is the value that the client sees in the offer you're bringing to them? All right. So this is the case if you're working with mostly small business owners, right? Now, you may have a situation where you work with a much larger organization or in development consulting. Now, the ball is a little different in development consulting, because in development consulting, it's not really business, but it is business in that you still work with clients who require your services, but they pay that the industry has pay scales, and they pay based on quote unquote qualification and experience, and they look at academic qualification, and look at experience, and they have certain grades there. So different organizations have different pay scale. So sometimes in development consulting, you're not so able to do much negotiation, because they tell you this is what we can offer, because they have already pre-valued the service you're offering. So the way I see it is, hey, If I come to a development consulting project and they say, and usually they will offer you payment per day. If I come to a development consulting project and they say, look, we can only pay $500 a day or $350 a day, I now review the work, the scope of work, and see what it is that I'm required to do. And then I ask myself, is it worth $350 a day for me or not? And if it's not, then I walk away. If it is, then I go for it. All right. So that's how development consulting works. But when you work with private enterprises, you have more leverage to negotiate. Even in development consulting, sometimes you negotiate, but sometimes and oftentimes the clients are also limited by whatever budget that they have to work with that year. And so there isn't much room for negotiations when you come to development consulting. But when it comes to private clients, you have room to negotiate based on the value you're bringing to the client. If you're bringing the client millions of dollars in new revenue, yes, they will pay you 10, 20,000, 30,000, 100,000, depending on what you can negotiate. So the key is to first ask yourself what value your service brings to the client and help work with the client to establish that value. Ask the right questions. All right. And I will, in a subsequent training, I will share some of those questions. But these are questions. There are lists of questions that you can ask, over about 20 different questions, depending on the nature of the client. And this I teach in my consultant mastery program, Consulting Dynamics. In that program, you are given these questions and the applicability. I teach you in what situations to use which questions. And these questions will allow you to work with the client to determine the value of your service, and based on that, you can charge a fee based on the percentage of what value you're bringing to them. All right. So if you want to learn more about the Consulting Dynamics program, a new cohort is starting out. Then drop a comment in down below, and we'll get back to you with details on what the cohort is. It is a program that helps you transition. And our commitment to you is that you will generate your first $5,000 as a consultant when you enroll in this program. And if you don't, then we will work with you until you do. All right. So if you want to learn more about that, feel free to drop a comment in the session below, in the comments below, and we will schedule a time to have a conversation to see whether it's a good fit for you. All right. So that is it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Drop your questions in the comments. And also, what is one thing that you're going to do to enhance your consulting career? If this video has been helpful to you, I encourage you to like it, and please subscribe to the channel, and please share it to any professional who you know wants to transition from an employee or self-employed or freelancer into a professional consultant. And if you're already a consultant, there's going to be some training. So you can also go to the website danmaxwelljr.com, where I share tips on how to grow your business to the next level, how to work with higher level clients, and get paid to travel and all of that as a consultant. So hope this has served you. Again, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's grow this channel. When you do those, you let me know that I'm bringing value to you, because it's important to me. But you also let YouTube know that I'm bringing value, and they will push it to more people who are interested in starting or growing their own independent business consulting practices. Until next time, my name is Dan, and I will see you.